Welcome to episode 211 of the Prosperity Practice, the podcast that has you living your most abundant life. My name is Danielle Amos, and I am your host. Today, I'd love to review the law of assumption. So, I just was teaching about the law of assumption in our Success Society, and it is a powerful law. In fact, I've had conversations with high-level mentors and people in my life who believe that the law of assumption is actually more powerful than the law of attraction or the law of vibration, because the law of assumption is even more specific, meaning what you assume or believe to be true is your reality. Like, you'll always get what you believe. Now, the law of assumption comes from Neville Goddard. If you are like me, I love, to read more and look into concepts and ideas more. And Neville Goddard has a book called The Power of Awareness, one that I actually study and carry around with me often. So what is the law of assumption? The law of assumption states that the beliefs and assumptions that you have about your reality shape the experiences and outcomes of your life. And if you can see the law of assumption almost like a blueprint or like a filter of your experience, and I'm going to go deeper into this. I've got a bonus episode for you, for all of you that are members and subscribers, subs of the Prosperity Practice Podcast Plus. I am going to go deeper on this and actually go into some NLP, some neuro-linguistic programming, information in neuroscience that I've studied. It's deep, so it may not be for everyone. So that's why I'm going to keep it for the subs. So if you are a subscriber, go listen to that. I'm going to describe more about what I mean by the filter and how we filter and things out. And I actually have an example of a client who believed that she was not supported, and her reality kept bringing her confirmation that she wasn't supported. So here, the law of assumption says that what you assume to be true, either consciously or unconsciously, acts as a magnetic force, attracting situations, events, people that align with this assumption. And here's the key. When you assume a certain state or feeling, like thinking, feeling, state, right? Or outcome, your subconscious mind goes to work to make that your reality. And it literally, your brain now, like, filters information from the external world, honing in on evidence that supports your assumption, that assumption. And it literally discards anything that contradicts that assumption, including this work, including, and what I told my clients, including our program, Seeking Your Results. So if what you assume to be true about yourself and reality in the world, and then the very thing that's meant to help you change your external circumstance, goes against that assumption, your brain will automatically discard it. This is huge. So I want to share the example of my client so that you can really understand the law of assumption and see it happening and rolling out in your own life. And then if you want to go deeper into the science of like how we filter out the information and all that, that's for the plus episode. So this is a true story. A client of a few years ago, she wrote a really long letter to our administer like our info at email. And she had just been in the program about a month, and she got all the same emails, welcome emails, and all the same onboarding that all of our clients do. And we've created quite an incredible system because I've been doing this since 2016. So we've learned along the way and had thousands of people through our programs. And I'm really proud of the way that it's set up and the accountability and the structure. And I've really taken into consideration the different ways people learn, and need to be supported in order to thrive in our programs. And so she received all the emails, but and well, actually she didn't. So that's part of the story. But we received about a month and we received this email, and it was a very long complaint letter, basically saying how disappointed she was on how she was supported getting into this program. And she was giving examples, and it would be like, I was not supported here, an example. And then this happened and I felt not supported. And so it was like this constant repetition of this line, I am not supported. And it really stood out to me. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And we already know in our program that when you get started, it is a change for you. And we understand that your paradigm or your programming is going to kick up a fight, because it does that when there's change. And it's a great opportunity for us to see how you already are operating habitually, to see what the limitations are in that way of you showing up in the world. So we actually use it as information. So it's never a problem. If people feel overwhelmed or they don't know where a link is, it's actually like a really great opportunity and a learning for us to coach on. So it's quite normal, that people feel a little bit like, because it's so new, and that's good. It's a good thing. And we can lean into that. Well, this woman really didn't feel supported. She was quite angry. And so I asked if I could address it on our Q&A, and I got permission to do that. And I put her on the hot seat. And the first question I asked was, well, where else in your life do you not feel supported? And she said, oh, like everywhere. My husband, he doesn't believe in my business, in my industry. And so everything seems that much harder because he doesn't support me. Everything seems like an uphill battle because I'm not supported. And then to go even further, my family doesn't believe in it, and I'm not supported by them. And she just went on and on and on. And I let her, I gave her space to share her story about how the world is giving her evidence that she's not supported. And then I said, are you ready to give up that story and that assumption about yourself? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, there is a law of assumption. And as long as you continue to assume that you are not supported, the universe has to show you evidence and attract to you situations, people, and events that make sure that you feel that you're not supported. And I said, I want you to look in your email now and check for the getting started email and the getting started checklist. And she said, it's not there. And I said, okay, could you check your junk? She did, and it was there. And she's like, I missed it. And I said, well, it could be no other way, because the universe has to show up based on your assumption and everything you do so that you feel not supported. So it's no coincidence that it went into your junk mail and you didn't see it, therefore missing information, therefore feeling you're not supported. Whereas another person in the program, it went into their inbox right away and they found it because they don't have the story, I'm not supported. Now, they'll have a different paradigm, granted, and that's for them. We're talking about you. And so it can be no other way but for you to feel it. So I want to just read what the law of assumption is again and just get you present to this. So the law of assumption says that your beliefs and assumptions about reality. So think about reality, what it is. It's what you believe to be true about yourself, about others, about the world, about money, about everything. The assumptions, and it's going to shape your experience and the outcome And so what you assume to be true, either conscious or subconscious. So of course you're not going through the world going, I wish, like, I don't want to be supported. It's not a conscious thing. And somewhere along the line, unconsciously, you decided that you are someone that's not supported. And this acts as a magnetic force, which then attracts situations to you, events. So situations like the email going to your junk, like you getting the time wrong to come to the welcome call. So she put it in her calendar incorrectly because of the time zone change, or the time zone. Not a coincidence. So then she missed the call. So she attracted that situation or event. People. So people into her life. So perhaps even, when she asks for the link, we are very good at telling you where to find it, rather than just give you the link. We train you to become resourceful. So even attracting people like that don't give her that. Whereas if we would have given it to her, she would have felt supported, perhaps. But we tell her where to find it. And then she echoes back, see, I'm not supported. You just don't give it to me. And what your mind's doing is, even though the truth is the reality is, in this woman's reality, there are plenty of places where she is supported. Like we have a study club where, she's very much supported and loved and validated for showing up. But her mind doesn't see that as support. It almost like there, and that's not the only place she's supported. She's so supported in so many ways. We've got success ambassadors, myself, study club leaders, mastermind leaders, all wrapping their arms around her as she onboards. And that's the truth. But it's like her perception, this law of assumption, her subconscious mind, her paradigm won't let her see it or even experience it as support, because it's filtering and discarding it and only looking for evidence that supports the assumption, I am not supported. And when she heard me say this, it was like a light bulb went off. So for all of you listening, I'd like to encourage you to look in your own life where you are saying, I am ... or I am not ... And it's like this statement that you assume about yourself, or perhaps a circumstance outside of you. Like there's always traffic at 5 p.m. in Toronto. I'm always late. Or I'm always confused. What is it? And do you prefer that truth or not? And if you're ready to let it go, let's create a new story about yourself. So it's very easy. I said to the woman, do you want this? I'm not supported. Because there is a payoff to not to like this story for her. I mean, she gets to complain. She gets to put a lot of attention on her when she does complain. Her ego probably likes it. So she's got to be willing to engage the law of sacrifice and give it up to attract something of greater nature to herself. And that's her decision. There's nothing wrong with attracting events where she's not supported, other than, it's causing her pain. But until she decides that she's had enough of that, and she can choose something new. So she did. And I said, okay, well, what's the equal and opposite of I'm not supported? The positive side of that. Well, she said, I am supported. And I'm like, yeah, it's obvious. And it still needs to be in your words. So I said, can you assume now that you are supported? So what would it look like for you to engage the law of assumption and actually have this be a deep conviction that you feel like if you go into situations and you actually believe I am supported, what does this change? And it can't be just a conscious idea, I am supported. It really has to be something that you embody, that you think and feel. And I said, I recommend, like Neville Goddard tells us, to use visualization to really embody the new feeling. And in the bonus episode, there is a Neville Goddard visualization for manifestation using the law of assumption as part of the bonus. So I said, what does it actually feel like to walk through life now from this moment forward to think I am supported? And she's like, and I said, let's start with your husband. She's like, yeah, but he doesn't support me. I'm like, okay, but you can continue to share that story, or you can actually change you and your assumption, and then they change and the situation changes. But you've got to believe in general that I am supported, I am supported, I am supported. And I said, well, what does it change within you and the way that you show up? She thought about it. And I said, well, what would it take for you to act like you were supported, even if the evidence on the outside isn't showing that you're supported yet? Because there is this time where the universe, your physical reality, is recalibrating to this new assumption. And so you might get realities, or you might attract situations that support that old idea, I am not supported, and that's okay. And then you'll start to attract situations that have you feel totally supported. And then the more often you do that, the more you'll know that you are leveraging the power of assumption in the direction that you now want. So never mind if you're attracting situations that have you feel not supported, you're going to start attracting more that have you feel supported in time. So be persistent with this. And this is where, it could become an affirmation. And I hear people say, I don't believe in affirmations, they don't work. And what I say to that is they absolutely do work. There's a lot of science behind the fact that they work, even if you're affirming something that you don't believe in the beginning and your mind says that's not true, that's not true. If you repeat it long enough and you use persistence, which is a key tool, then it absolutely works every single time. The people that say affirmations don't work, they quit too early. And the affirmation for her to say, I'm supported, I'm supported, I'm supported, might not feel true in the beginning. And the more that she repeats it and looks for evidence that where she is supported, she'll start, like, this is science, like her mind, her reticular activating system will start to see evidence of, oh, look, like I've got a study club leader who sent me this message. And she'll start to find evidence of where she is supported. And it takes repetition. It takes persistence in this. And you got to keep going until it becomes your new reality, and not quit too early, which is what happens with those that tell me that auto-suggestion affirmations don't work. There is so much science behind the fact that repetition and affirmations done with emotion absolutely work. It's bonkers to say it doesn't. A great resource is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I love looking at the science behind it. Now, are there other ways for you to change your beliefs? Yeah, absolutely. And for me, this way through repetition has worked every single time. And so because of that, it's something that we very much use in our community, and like we have fun with them. So this woman started to change her belief and say that I am supported, I am supported. And she started attracting into her life exactly that, situations that echoed that. So for yourself, I'd like you to think about what the opposite is then of the assumption that you are holding on to about yourself, and create the opposite, create a new statement, and really contemplate what changes if you embody this new assumption. And you can also use the law of assumption on like more of a micro level, like a moment to moment level, I ask myself often, in this situation, particular this situation that I'm about to go into, maybe it's driving on the highway, what would I prefer and how would that feel? I prefer smooth ride, light traffic, to get there earlier than planned and for it to be comfortable, a comfortable drive. And how would that feel? It'd feel easy, calm, great, joyful. I love driving when it's easy. And it's sort of like setting an intention, but it's like I'm saying what I expect the next hour to be. And I'm going to get what I expect truly, what I assume truly in my subconscious mind, not like consciously saying it, but just like really actually embodying it. And so the law of assumption, you can activate and live in harmony with this throughout your day, moment to moment, and have fun with it. It is extremely powerful in the fact that when you really believe that assumption, you're going to get what you believe all the time. And if you don't attract what it is that you prefer, it's simply because you don't actually believe it. It might be just a conscious thing you're saying, and that there's a little more work for you mentally, energetically, for you to believe it, because a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking and you choose your thoughts. So you've got free will to believe anything that you desire to believe. And it makes good sense to believe thoughts or beliefs that move you in the direction of your goal or your vision, and to not believe things that move you backwards. Now, I get that we live in a 3D physical world, and it's not always so easy to believe things that don't have its grounding in the physical yet. And we can. That's our power. That's by, using your imagination and going to the 5D world, which Neville Goddard says, he talks about the power of the imagination. Most people poo-poo it and they say, oh, that's just wishful thinking or daydreaming. Your imagination is a mental faculty that literally bridges the gap between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, or infinite intelligence, God, the universe. It is the most powerful tool. And you want to harness your imagination, take it seriously, and tap into that. So this has been the law of assumption, one of my favorite subjects. I'd love to hear from you what you notice from my story of the client who said, I'm not supported, and how that changes things for you, how you take responsibility for creating a new assumption specifically about yourself, and then also about the world. So I use the law of assumption for money. I use this law of assumption in my relationships, with this podcast. I assume that my words land for the people that are meant to hear my voice. And I assume that you give me a 5-star review. I assume that you share this podcast when it resonates. I assume that it helps you. And that's the energy in which I go in to this. And then what do I get? Feedback that echoes that assumption. I hear from you all the time on Instagram about how much it's helped you. Examples. I'm getting people sharing this all the time. We get emails after email about how the podcast has made a difference. Well, of course, because that's been my assumption. So with this, I'd like to invite you to activate the law of assumption in your life, live in harmony with this law, make it super conscious and intentional, and watch the magic unfold. I love you. Thank you for being here, and expect abundance. And for all of you listening to the bonus episode, enjoy me geeking out on the science behind it. There'll be a little repetition, and then you'll have your visualization. I know you're absolutely going to love it. I love you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode. Expect abundance.